So far we have seen how to create various structures using a single color. Now let's look at the way we can add more colors to knitted fabrics to make more design combinations. It is also possible to mix colors with the structure designs to create more complex designs. By the end of this unit, students will be able to describe ways of creating multiple colored knitted fabrics. The first module focuses on creating stripes. The simplest way to mix color into a knitted fabric is by creating multicolored stripes. You may also have noticed most of the stripe designs you see are horizontal in nature. Let us look at the way to create stripes in flat knitting machine. After knitting a few courses with one color, change the yarn feeder with a different one which is having a different colored yarn in it. This time a new color would be knitted above the previous color. This way you can create horizontal stripes in knitted fabrics. A normal hand driven flat knitting machine will be equipped with two feeders. If more colors are required, you may have to manually change the yarn of one of the feeder. This way you can manage any number of colors in your knitted pattern. In case of advanced knitting machine, there are more number of feeders available. Some of them are equipped with 40 feeders to produce complex stripe patterns. It is also interesting to know that vertical stripes are not possible in weft knitting machines using the standard stripe method. If we need to create a vertical stripe, we can use Jacquard, Dasha or plating technique. The first module focuses on creating 4 types of Jacquards. To create more complex colored pattern, we can use a technique called Jacquard. In this unit, we will discuss 4 different Jacquard techniques: float Jacquard, tubular Jacquard, bird's eye Jacquard and ladder back Jacquard. A Jacquard is a technique by which you can bring out a particular color by selecting few needles to the front side of the fabric and simultaneously hide few other colors. This method along with individual needle selection make Jacquard one of the most popular method to create colored patterns in knitting. Let us first look at creating a fabric with a base color and a block of second color in the center as shown in the diagram. As you know, we always start the knitting from bottom to the top. The first few colors we can knit with a single feeder till we reach the bottom of the colored block. Next course, first select the needles where you need to show the base color and knit only those needles with that color. Now select the needles to create the color block and knit those needles with the second feeder which is having the color you wanted to appear in the color block. Repeat the step till you reach the end of the block and then knit with the base color alone. When you look at the fabric from the front side, observe that this looks similar to the drawing. But if you look at the back side of the fabric, observe that whenever you have not knitted a yarn in the certain area, there is a long float. Hence the name float Jacquard. Since we have used only one bed for knitting, this technique is also known as single jersey Jacquard. The only drawback of this method is you cannot have long floats, as during washing, the floating yarn may break and unravel the fabric. So the maximum length of a float has to be restricted to less than 1 inch. Now this will restrict the pattern as well. So we need to repeat the same color after 1 inch of the width. Hence only smaller, dense patterns are knitted with this method. For example, Fur Isles pattern. Advantages of float Jacquard. Since we are not knitting on backbed needles, the weight of the knitted fabric will be relatively low compared to the double jersey Jacquard. Disadvantages of float Jacquard. Since we cannot have very long floats, we cannot make bigger motifs or low density patterns. Let us look at creating the same pattern of colored block with double jersey method. To create this Jacquard, let's start the way we did for float Jacquard. First, Knit with the base color until we reach the color block. Start with the base color and select needles from the front bed where you need the base color. Also select the back bed needles for the entire width of the colored block and knit with the base color yarn. Next, select the rest of the needles from both the beds and knit with second color. Repeat till the top of the block. Continue with the base color knit to complete the swatch. Let us look at the fabric now. Observe that the front side looks exactly as the float jacquard as the same design is used here. Now look at the back side of the fabric. The design remains same but the colors have reversed. Hence the name reversible jacquard. This is also known as tubular jacquard as each color knitted separately on front bed and back bed results in tubular space between them. This can be felt by pulling the fabric from front and back in opposite direction in any color blocked area. Advantages of tubular jacquard. The knit will be as fine as single jersey and looks cleaner than other double jersey jacquard from the front side. It also a reversible jacquard. Any design can be created using this method with two colors. Disadvantages of tubular jacquard. Only two colors can be used in this method. This creates heavier fabrics compared to float jacquard of the same design. If you use a bird's eye jacquard, you can have multiple colors and virtually any pattern. In this type of jacquard, the yarn which is not knitting on the front bed needle will knit on back bed needles with certain intervals to avoid long float. Since all needles at the back side will have some color yarn knitted on it, the floats would be concealed between the front and back knit. As multiple yarns with different colors would be knitting on adjacent needles on the bed, there will be a multicolored dotted pattern which might look similar to bird's eye view of earth from the sky. Hence the name bird's eye jacquard. Advantages of bird's eye jacquard. It can knit with more number of colors. Any pattern is possible with such a method. Disadvantages of bird's eye jacquard. One of the heaviest jacquard type. Front loops would be slightly stretched if you use more colors. Ladder back jacquard is the most popular method to create a multicolor design as it is lightweight in construction. In this type, there will be a float which is restricted to the acceptable width and there will be a veil of back net to arrest the float. This is to break a longer float into smaller one with acceptable width. This will appear as a ladder at the back as the floats are getting arrested with two veils on either side. This leaves less number of back nets and make the fabric lighter than bird's eye jacquard technique. Advantages. It can knit with more number of colors. Any pattern is possible with this method. It is lightweight compared to bird's eye jacquard. Disadvantages. It is heavier than float jacquard. This module focuses on intarsia. The biggest disadvantages of any type of jacquard is slow production, added weight and wastage of yarn. Slow production because at a time a machine can knit only 1 to 4 colors depending on the number of knitting systems in the machine. That means for every additional set of colors, the carriage should make an empty carriage move without feeders to the opposite direction to pick up the rest of the feeders to complete an effective course. Let us look at this example. We are going to knit a jacquard pattern with 3 colors using a single system knitting machine. To complete the first jacquard course, the machine has to start, let's say, from left side and move to right side with first color. The carriage should then make an empty move towards the left side to pick up the second color and repeat the same for the third color as well. So that means we have 5 different movements of the carriage to complete a single effective course. The production will come down to 1/5 compared to a solid color knitting. It is going to be heavy as well as there will be wastage of expensive yarn because whenever we are not knitting a particular color owing to the pattern design, the yarn is floating or knitting on the back side of the fabric. Intarsia is a technique by which you can produce almost all jacquard patterns with a fabric thickness of a single jersey. The appearance of this fabric would be as if someone has cut out the base fabric and patched it with a colored fabric to complete the design. To do intarsia, we need to have more number of feeders for the same color depending on the number of color blocks in each course. For example, let's look at the first design we tried on jacquard, a colored block in the middle of a base fabric. If you look at the single course in the middle of the fabric, you can see 3 blocks of loops with 2 colors. So basically we have 2 colored blocks with the base color and 1 color block with the second color. In this case, unlike jacquard where you just need to have 2 feeders with 2 colors, here you need to have 3 feeders, 2 with base color and 1 with the second color. Let's try to knit this pattern with 3 feeders in 2 colors. At the beginning of the intarsia area knitting, the machine will park all the 3 feeders just before the start of each colored block. The carriage will start from the left side, knit the last block and move the feeder to the right side. Now the carriage makes an empty move to the opposite side to knit with the second feeder with the second color which is parked in the middle of the knitting area. This would be knitted to the length of the block and parked just outside the middle block. Now the carriage goes back to the left side to fetch the third feeder and knit the first block. Then the entire process is done in the reverse direction. If there are more number of knitting systems, the carriage can take more yarn feeders simultaneously and reduce the number of movements required for the knitting on a single movement. Alternatively, if there are feeders available with kickback system, it will allow the feeders to kick sideways and will go up, clearing the knitting needle to perform without any worry of clashing with the feeder. In such a scenario, all the 3 blocks can be knitted simultaneously. Advantages: it is the most lightweight construction technique for colored pattern. There is no wastage of yarn like in jacquard. It is as fast as solid color knitting if you use kickback feeders. Disadvantages: the number of feeders decide the number of color blocks you can have it in your pattern. Only less complex pattern can be knitted, more costly to knit. If we use hand driven machines, the operator might take one full day to complete one panel. If we use a computerized knitting machine, which can ensure faster production, but this is expensive as the investment in a computerized system is more. Intarsia jacquard is a combination of both the technology which combines the benefit of the two. The jacquard is capable of producing multiple colored block with minimum number of feeders, and intarsia makes the fabric thin as single jersey. Let us say we need to create a football motif with black and white color in the center of a green colored knitted panel. The intarsia technique alone cannot be used as it might require more number of feeders than you have in your machine. A jacquard pattern will make the fabric heavier as it will knit all the green colored area also with black and white yarn. However, if we use a intarsia jacquard combination, then the jacquard would be limited only to the black and white colored football motif area, and we will be able to knit the rest of the panel with green color as an intarsia. This helps us to reduce the total number of feeders to 4, 2 with green color and 1 each for black and white colors. This module focuses on plating. As the name suggests, plating is a technique which will cover a loop with another one with a different color. For this technique, we need 2 different colored yarn with a similar cross section for an effective plating. The technique is simple. Feed each needle with 2 different colored yarn and make sure 2 different yarns are available in 2 different heights. This will ensure when the needle comes down, one loop would always be on top side of the hook and the other always just below that. Both the loops will slip over the hook when the next cycle of loop formation happens, and the released top loop would be covered by the bottom loop. This ensures single jersey fabric to look like one color from one side and another color from the other side. As suggested, full needle double jersey fabric will not have the plaited effect, as the top loops from either side will be hidden between the two front stitch. If you use transfer patterns or rib structures like 2x2 or 3x3 etc., two colored pattern with the front and back net will appear on both sides of the fabric. New fabric structure development is relatively easy by imaginatively combining different techniques. I would like to share some of the creative fabric developments our students have done on hand flat machines and computerized knitting machine. You have come to the end of this unit. To summarize, in this unit, you have learned to create multiple colored knitted fabrics such as stripes, jacquard, intarsia and plaited fabric. Thank you.